Welcome to the Midwest side, those groups that the narratively driven podcast you'll ever turn right. I'll be in fall. We get your boss dice, rolling for low in the swamp, never stolen, no to the dogs of Warcry.
Dogs of Warcry is a podcast from the Mortal Realms, focusing on Warcry, a fast-paced, cinematic skirmish game by Games Workshop. Join us for discussions on gameplay, rules, lore, painting, terrain building, campaigns, and events.
Welcome to Dogs of Warcry. In episode 8.5, we're going to discuss our Circle of Paint Challenge, the tale of two warbands. We're going to talk about how you can see them and vote on your favorites. My name is Josh, and answering the call with me this week is Paven. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very good. We got a great mini episode for everyone tonight. We did it. We finished our warbands, but I don't want to spoil anything. I'm excited to start talking about it.
Yeah, likewise. A nice little end cap to the season. Perfect.
Yeah, going out on a win. Okay, yeah, let's kick it off with some hobby progress. How did we get here? How much work did you do? Josh, tell me about it.
Oh, well, this last few weeks or so, I got my 3D printer going again and working on some more Warcry terrain, as usual. So I kind of worked on the arena for a while. I stopped that because I got inspired by some new files I saw where they're kind of like these stacked burial niches, like a catacombs area. Like they look very much like Skyrim Nord barrows, where there are these kind of shelves and bodies are lined up from floor to ceiling. So I thought it'd be really neat for a catacombs-like board, especially set in Soroth core. So I've been working on printing some of those up, and I'll try and get some pictures of what that looks like once I've got enough of them to kind of make a scene. Also, I spent quite a bit of time trying to find out how to take good pictures of my warbands. Probably like 3 or 4 different days at different points with different lights and with a white background, black background, and I think I finally got something that worked. But I did learn a lot in terms of how to use my phone and take pictures with it. So that was going to be useful, I think, for the future. How about yourself?
If I know anything about Circle of Paint challenges, it's about 50% hobby skill and execution of vision, and 50% just taking a really nice photo.
Right. Showing it off.
Time well spent for sure. And it looks great. You sent me the photo ahead of our recording session today, and not only is your warband completely painted, great work, but they look phenomenal. The picture looks super crisp. I can't wait to go up against you in honorable Circle of Paint Challenge combat.
I can't either. It'd be great.
But for myself, I haven't had a ton to report. I picked up Cod Gras Ravengers Warhammer Underworld's Warband that just came out, and I kit bashed them with Signs of the Flame bits to kind of make it more fiery. That's pretty much it. I'm trying to execute on that progression of Path to Glory concept I was thinking out, where you kind of start as a cultist. In my case, Signs of the Flame, and then you work your way into becoming a chaos warrior in like the limitless armies of Archaon, and then you go further up the ranks into like a chaos lord or a chaos knight. But like I want that kind of fire motif to go through all those miniatures.
Yeah,
so
I don't shared
go ahead.
those. I was gonna say you shared those, and just the head swaps on some of them are perfect. They fit really nicely. They look great.
Thank you. I really, it was a very simple kind of head swap and kit bashing, but I struggled mightily with it. But I guess that means I'm growing as a hobbyist.
Right, exactly. Push the limits.
I also I've got those guys primed, and I also primed some additional Saurus guards, so I could have them on deck if I ever kind of run out of things to paint. Which kind of happened after my Orgroid was done. I didn't really have an next miniature on deck. So I want to have always something primed that I can work on. And the Seraphon are a great opportunity because I have so many things that are in the deep backlog.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a great idea to prime those models ahead of time so you have something ready to go. I've got some models that I'm not planning to use anytime soon primed, but I think it's a great idea to get some models that you could potentially use primed, and they'd be more motivated to get those going. I'll have to learn from your progress in that respect.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah. Sometimes they kind of jump between terrain and then models and then back again. So it's good to have a little bit of everything ready so you can jump depending on where your motivation goes. So with the hobby progress wrapped up, did you have anything to add for Path to Glory this particular session? I have not had any additional games, but
No, me neither.
okay, I figured, but eventually we'll get there someday. In that case, why don't you kick us off with the Visions of Madness?
All right. So what's new for the Warhammer news? So nothing for Warcry specifically that I know of. I don't know if you know anything, Josh.
Nope.
But we do have exciting things to talk about as far as like Age of Sigmar universe. You want to tell me about the battle tones that are coming out?
Yeah, sure. As of this recording, February 8th, we had heard the pre-orders coming up are for the Hedonites of Slaanesh and the Daughters of Cain battle tomes. And of course, the Hedonites of Slaanesh have a whole range of new models that were in the Chaos Warcry battle tome. So lots of options coming your way if you're going to play Slaanesh Mortals. Lots of phenomenal models, and it'll be interesting to see if the Daughters of Cain battle tome adds any additional models or units to use, and how that may get integrated into Warcry.
Yeah, and the Daughters of Cain specifically, as far as the only new models I know about are the endless spells they're getting.
Yeah, that likewise.
Okay, and the other thing we can talk about is we are being slowly, torturously drip-fed more information about Warhammer Quest Curse City, which I know we are both very excited about. We had an article on, Alexander Hallgrim, which is one of the bosses of the Curse City, who is a skeleton commander. And we also got to see a couple more miniatures for skeleton warriors who are going to be like classic bad guys. And they got a lot of sass and they got a lot of character. And these are great. Everybody loves a good skeleton.
Yeah. And these models alongside the Sepulchral Guard from Underworlds would make an awesome Legions of Nagash Warband. Really lots of character.
Yeah. And I whenever I thought about making a death specific Warband, because to get one of each, I always looked at the Sepulchral Guard as like a great baseline to start from.
Yeah, phenomenal models. I'm really excited to see what else they'll drip feed us this week. Excellent. Well, yeah, I couldn't find anything else in terms of news that would be potentially related for Warcry. So hopefully we'll see some additional information on what comes out for the Hedonites of Slaanesh and then eventually those new Lumineth models that they previewed for us the last time we met.
Definitely. And eventually when we get all of the Soul Blight Grave Lords.
Yes.
What Warcry rules do they get? Where do those appear?
Exactly.
My guess is White Dwarf. Has been the pattern, but they've broken it before.
That's right. As long as we get him.
Yeah, as long as we get him. As long as we can play with our toys in our favorite game system.
Actually, there was another preview for a box game that had the two Underworlds Warbands in it. And it's like in between Underworlds and Warcry, if I got that correctly.
You're right. This is more direct Warcry news. Yeah, it's called Bladeboard.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah, and the cards looked like Warcry cards. They had like kind of the same art, although not all the same rune marks.
Yeah.
But it had a hex grid like Underworlds, and it had one Warcry warband versus one. No, it was two Underworlds warbands.
Yep. Yeah, they're both Chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both the Chaos. Yeah, it's the Skull Takers and the Ravagers.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious about the game. If the game is fun, it's certainly full of really great sculpts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm really curious about how it fits and how well it fits between those systems. A lot of people were guessing that it is trying to introduce like board game players and get them like a toe into maybe both games, one or both games,
right?
By being like kind of the board game light version of them. We'll see. Yeah, we just got a few images out of it. Seems cool.
Yeah, and if nothing else, a bargain for those two warbands. So, if you wanted to pick those up for your Warcry warband, I was considering that myself because they're great Chaos models.
Yeah, and I hope they get specific Warcry rules for a lot of those models. Like the Chaos Warriors, they have Warcry analogs. So
Yeah.
like the one, but the Dark Oath Warband, I forget the name, the full name of that warband, but
Yep.
they don't have great analogs into the Slaves of Darkness. They like have a guy with a bow and like a two-handed axe, and none of those quite correspond to Marauder models.
Right.
So if they just finally got specific Warcry rules for those specific sculpts, that would be very cool.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Hopefully they'll do that. Yeah. All right. Glad I remembered that because I knew there was something else.
Nice. We still got it.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so moving on to our victory condition this episode, we're obviously going to talk about our Circle of Paint Challenge, and we're going to talk about our two warbands, the Children of Light and the Shadowborn, and how you can view them and vote for your favorites. Paven, I think we'll kick it off to you first to talk about your warband and, just kind of give us, again, remind everybody what the background is and share with us any challenges you had with this particular warband in terms of the theme and getting it done.
Sure. Yeah, so my warband is the Children of Light, and they are a religious sect worshipping chaos in its many forms, particularly through the worship of light and fire. So this is a Scions of the Flame warband. I think they are they take in everybody because they are a recruiting religion that grows through conversion, and so they take in folks from all the realms with I think the promise of like good news and like better days and like kind of an upbeat message of like power and understanding and knowledge and like a better life. I mean the deep dark part of it is that it ends in chaos and destruction and flame, but they are structure and organization for people that might have nothing. I think they could seem like a good deal. So like my warband is like one sect within this greater religious order that is eventually a larger Slaves to Darkness army. So they are the Children of Light. They are led by Krastos Tyrannos, otherwise known as the Flame Father. He is both a spiritual and martial leader to the warband. That is I forget his regular name. I think Blazing Lord.
Yep.
And then there's his second in command is Raxos Korvax, who is the Brazen Champion, who is kind of like the enforcer and like he's done in every game I've had him, he's done a lot of work. He's really great. And then Heliax is the Immolator. He's on fire. He's known as like kind of worshipped in kind of a weird way because he's so blessed by the fire and by the light that he's like kind of almost always on the cusp of being burnt to a crisp and to dust, as the realms eventually will follow. Othariah is the Inferno priest, who is kind of more mystical and maybe more analytical and philosophical, while like the Flame Father is the leader, like the priest, like kind of helps put like the specific action to that and specific philosophies and more knowledge and training, and like she does probably a lot of the teaching of the warband. And then there's Vatra and Vactrian, who are the Fireborn. They're kind of like mid-level guys. And Sophimenos was my initiate who died, and then there's Carvas, who's my other initiate. And I have two more that haven't been named because they haven't gotten any games in, so they haven't been added to the roster, so I don't have names or stories for them yet. And then finally, the Olgroid Myrmidon was the last edition, and he travels with the warband but doesn't really get involved in kind of the spiritual, philosophical part of it. He is more just there for making the war and the battle, and that's kind of like what he, like all he cares about, and he just kind of is grouped up with this group. I don't really know if I have a reason for him to be grouped up yet. I think that will come out in games and when I have enough glory to actually recruit him to the warband. But I know the other warband kind of looks at him with kind of a knowing religious kind of look because they think he's so blessed and like a representation of chaos and like kind of a purity of fire and fight that they know he doesn't quite understand his place, but they know his place, and it's one of and it's an important and valuable one. He's very blessed. So that's the Olgroid Myrmidon. He has these glowing fire tattoos and scars that that further signify how the gods of fire and flame.
That's pretty cool.
What is it? Like him, So that's the background of the Warband. I think painting them, it's been pretty good. I think I went, you can listen to the previous episodes of me being tortured by this paint scheme and like tweaking it and trying to figure it out. So they have like dirty white leather armor and kind of grays and tans for most of the cloth and robes. And overall, it's kind of a boring scheme. However, the scale cloaks they wear, which are, I think, from like fire salamanders, that they cut their hearts out and they use them in rituals. Those are purple, and so that gives a good splash of color. And then the flame is kind of a traditional orange flame, and that also balances out. But you got to have like all of those. You have to have it all working in order for the whole scheme to look good. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see. Every new model I add is like another challenge to make sure it still looks good. But yeah, we'll see. We'll let the listeners decide. If it actually looks good.
Well, the background and everything you got, especially with the models you're working on for progression to, further delving into chaos, I think is a great theme. This is definitely really intriguing.
Yeah. I really want to expand this collection into more of the traditional Chaos Warrior Slaves to Darkness range. Mm-hmm. So this is after you get more sophisticated and probably a little bit disillusioned that it's not all like high-minded philosophy and religious ecstasy. It's like kind of the grunt work of like actually making Archaon's dreams a reality is like, hey, it's like a lot of protracted combat and like endless military campaigns.
Right.
So they're not like disillusioned necessarily, like they still believe, but it's more like, oh, this is what the reality is. It's not just like fun and like dancing around planes all day. Like there's work to do and we have to do it. It's dirty work and probably none of us will survive to see the end of the world. Oh, too bad. But we're still doing our duty, and that duty is like, gearing up for Archaon's armies and putting on the armor. But I'm only a step down that path. But I have the Ravagers, as I said, but working on them. They won't be part of this challenge though, because they're not going to be done.
Yeah, I know, but definitely for the future. Great, thank you so much. I will jump in and share about the Shadowborn. So you listeners may recall, but my background was kind of set where this particular warband had been working in the 8 points for Morathi, gathering, Varanite, and stumbled upon Morathi's true plan and her false godhood, not really true Cain. And Morathi, of course, found out. And so she marked them and made sure that they stayed in the 8 points, so they would eventually die and their secret would, dissolve with them. But, of course, Calith Voidsworn decided she was not going to go down without a fight. And so she and the other members of the Warband have decided that they would find a new master. And they are seeking the Well of Shadows to make a bargain with the Realm of Shadow itself in exchange for freedom from Morathi's, but to maintain their ability to blend with shadows and work with shadows and potentially get vengeance against her at some point. So the Warband itself, of course, is led by the Shroud Queen, Calith Voidsworn. It has 2 Slaughter Shades, one with a whip and one with spears. Slitha Polhusk and Lurkweth Razor Scorn are both the champions and kind of lead the others an example. We have a couple Dark Flame Warlocks, one with crossbows, Groth, and one with the Doomfire Ring, Canis. And then a variety of different models with the Shroud Blade and Umbral Spears. Manuel, Aneth, Varia, and Scythia. And so those are the 9 models that made up the original Warband. I have some ideas for adding some additional Dark Flame Warlocks because they do have a nice triple that can increase the number of attacks for the models around them. Or I think it decreases the attacks coming in, rather. It's kind of like a shroud, so to speak. One of the disappointing things, it makes sense, but none of the Order factions can have thralls of any sort. It's too bad that we can't have some sort of models. You can call them something different besides thralls, maybe followers or hanger-ons or something. But it would be really nice to, with the shadow theme I had for this warband, the Dark Eldar range for Warhammer 40K has some shadow linked models, like the Mandrakes are these Dark Eldar shadow creatures that are cursed that live in the real space and in Immaterium at the same time. There's also these cat-like creatures that are shadow kin or something like that. And those would be awesome models to incorporate somehow with the shadow theme. And so I'd have to think about, can I make them represent an ally type model, or perhaps, have its stats match one of the current Shadow Stalker profiles. But those are kind of the ideas I had in terms of incorporating some models that looked a little more shadowy. Maybe like a mage with more mystical powers, like say Shadow Weaver, Mistweaver would have been a really cool model or something like that. But yeah, so I'll have to think about that. If we actually get some games in, whether I take these models in for our campaign and expand it with some of those thematic elements, would be a lot of fun.
Definitely. Does your warband know about Marathi's ascension to Marathi Kane? And if so, what are their thoughts? Is she still a usurper?
She is a usurper, a false goddess, because they know that she was stealing Kane's power for herself. Of course, nobody likes being duped, so they're going to get vengeance, and they're going to do it through the realm of shadow. Get her where it hurts.
Okay, very cool. And is your warband I guess your warband is in Veranthrix's Maw right now, because that's where what is the Idol of Shadow?
The Well of Shadow.
Well of Shadows, yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
But also obviously Soroth Core has some connection to the Void as well, so it might be another great opportunity to find a different master.
Yeah, over there, yeah. Yeah, I think my warband is also currently in Veranthrix's Maw, like on some sort of religious pilgrimage to the flames beneath, and they've been mostly fighting greenskins while down there. But I think they'll definitely make their way over to Soroth Core if we ever get down there.
Yeah, well, eventually. Well, listeners, as you may know, we're gonna provide some pictures for these warbands. You have a little bit of the backstory and the names, and then we'll share the photos of our painted warbands and let you choose what are your favorites. It could be based on the paint jobs, the themes, the background, whatever you guys want. So we're going to post those pictures on the Facebook Warhammer Warcry page, because it seems to be a fairly popular page. So we'll get, enough people might get a chance to view it there. We'll put it on the Dogs of Warcry Twitter channel, that's just at Dogs of Warcry. And also we'll post it on our Discord channel in the Warcry section. So please, we'll get those out probably on Wednesday of this week, which would be February 10th, along with this podcast, and put it up there for about a week or so and get your thoughts and opinions. It'd be great to hear.
And what URL would I go to if I wanted to hang out in the Discord?
You would go to themortalrealms.com/Discord.
Nice.
Thank you, Paven. It's been a fun challenge and definitely motivated me to get a full Warcry warband painted, which shamefully I cannot say I've done yet. So it's lots of in progress, but yeah, this is done. It's completely done. Okay, so we do have some listener questions that we'll use to wrap up this episode. Our first listener question is from Kilpanic. And the question is, how would you rank the Warcry box set terrain environments from best to worst, using criteria such as appearance, ease of construction, painting, replayability, applicability to the rules, etc.? And I don't know if you have any opinions on that, Paven.
Oh man, I gotta go bring them up.
Yeah,
I think I could pull some opinions out for sure.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I'll go first with the original core set terrain. I think that's my number one, because it's so good. It's varied. It's built for Warcry. You get a ton of it. Sadly, it's not available anymore. But yeah, the original box set I would say is number one. Not all the environments are even up anymore. Oh, so I have to try to remember them all. I think, what is number two? I don't know, Josh, you want to weigh in? I think maybe the Storm Vault is so cool. I know I don't have them all.
Yeah, no, I don't have them all either. I'm trying to remember correctly. There's the Azurite ruins, the Azurite townscape.
Well, no. So there's the defiled ruins, which is like,
Yes.
I think we're just talking about sets. Let's not expand to all Age of Sigmar terrain because that'd be too much. So yeah, so there's the two box sets. I would say I would count both of those, Catacombs and Original.
Right.
There's the Soul Drain Forest. There's
Yep.
the Defiled Ruins.
Mhm.
There's the Graveyard one,
Yep.
which I forget what it's called, and then there's the Stormbolt one.
Correct.
I think that's all the sets.
Yeah, all the ones that are Warcry specific, I think. Yes.
Yeah, and so I'll go original box set, and then I'm gonna go Stormbolt because it's really cool, and then I'll go Defiled Ruins because it's still got some elevation on there, and then I'll go Soul Drain Forest, which I really really like, but I think by itself, it's like the second one you buy. Maybe it's the best second one you buy because it gives you such a great organic element.
Mhm.
But doesn't have as much interactability as the other sets. And then the last one I would pick would be the Graveyard one, which was the former Garden of Moor.
Yep.
And then it became the Sigmarite Mausoleum, and I don't know what it was called when it was branded to Warcry.
Corpse Rack Mausoleum.
Corpse Rack Mausoleum, of course. So that's my power rankings. Josh, you want to add your own spin on it?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you that the first choice would probably be the original box set, and just because the huge range of terrain that you do get is amazing. It's a great deal. In terms of terrain, the Catacombs I like a lot, but there's not tons of terrain in there to pick. In terms for the rule set, you definitely want it. But yeah, I think the first box set would be my first choice for terrain. I like the Defiled Ruins because you get that additional elevation. And I did pick up the Stormbolt and the Corpse Rack Mausoleums because I think both of those add a lot of unique flavor. If I was going to decide one or the other, I would go the Stormbolt just because it's so different. And you can add, it's got some nice, braziers and, torches and columns and bridges and things like that, which I think adds a whole different element to the game. Even though there's not like a huge height difference, it's just so unique in appearance, and you could add some other stuff to it. So I think I would definitely go box set, the first box set, Stormbolt, Defiled Ruins, and then the Corpse Rack Mausoleum. Catacombs you definitely have to get at some point. But
all right, lock this in there.
Yeah. All right, our next question is from Toast. Have you come across or imagined in your head any particularly cool combos with slotting a different leader, not from your own warband, into your warband? How about you, Paven?
So, like, really taking advantage of the new hero rules.
Correct.
I haven't done a lot of like combo generation because that's not really where I get excited about Warcry.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did look briefly at the Cities of Sigmar rules and the Order Warbands, and I think you could stack a bunch of plus attacks to shoot.
Yep.
With a few of them, and then like get a free shot on a double on turn one or something. Either the Greywater Fastness or Living City, I think, has good shooting rules, and I think either Caradron or Stormcast also have really good like shooters.
Yeah.
So I think there's some kind of combo there, but I don't know specifically what it is. As far as slotting in different leaders, I don't know. I just know the models I want to use, and I've been collecting those, but not necessarily I'm going to use the Heart Eater in my Iron Golems Warband, which you can do now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I haven't really thought of any particular combos either myself. Again, kind of thinking about what thematically makes sense rather than, how do I take full advantage of the particular abilities, especially since some of the abilities changed and they added a bunch of new stuff for the leader types. So I haven't evaluated all those in context of how you could use them together. So,
yeah.
But yeah, definitely in the future, as we get more games in, I'll definitely kind of revisit some of that and find out what the new options are to play with.
Yeah, I really like the idea of adding a single Stormcast hero into a different Order Warband because I like the idea of these big beefy hammer guys that come in and smash, and then there's one of them and he's just like very terrorizing, but Terror causing, terror inducing,
Terrifying.
terrifying. There it is. So I like that. And I talked about my Living City Warband that would have a Gyran Guard, Stormcast, or oh god, who are the Hollow Knights? The only the faithful in my Living City Warband, because they both have Storm Keeps there.
Right.
But it's all in my head.
Yeah, no, I have got some ideas too. It'd be fun to, Soulbound, the role-playing game. You could definitely make a warband now that has your characters in it all, from the Order Cities of Sigmar range, which would be a lot of fun. It's like, oh yeah, this is my warband, but it's my Soulbound party that's traveling through the 8 points kind of thing. That'd be cool.
That's cool too.
All right, we've got 2 questions from Voodoo. Have you guys ever thought of making custom rules for terrain, and how do you go about balancing the rules? And I think we did talk a little bit about this in terms of dangerous terrain last time, and other things, other situations where you could apply dangerous terrain rules and how you could use that. But did you have any other ideas, Paven?
Well, I think didn't you and Eric did a little of this for the Plunging Spires event?
Yes.
I think. I wouldn't worry about balancing it. Well, especially if you're doing a narrative event. Maybe if you're doing a match play event, I would be less inclined to write special rules for terrain. Mm-hmm. But I think to be the safest, I think we mentioned this last time, would be to replicate rules that already exist, like the casket in the Catacombs set. If you end an action within 1 inch of it, you roll dice, and on a 1 you take dice 6 damage. Yeah. I think that feels reasonable. Yeah. And the deadly terrain, dangerous terrain rules are also, chip damage.
Yeah.
Although I think my personal preference is that they do too little damage. So, I'd like to pump that up.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Sticking to reusing some of the existing rules, or maybe taking some of the twist cards and turning it into a terrain piece, I think are probably fairly safe ways to go, especially if you're doing a narrative thing. But like you said, for match play, unless it's, this whole table, these unique things, they count as difficult terrain. Okay, that's fairly simple. People could probably handle that, no problem. But yeah, if you go, more unique, like perhaps when we're doing our Circle of Paint challenge battles, our unique, between you, Eric, and myself, having some unique terrain rules for that makes a lot of sense. Like climbing or falling, falling greater distances than 3 inches, what happens? So pushing things off of terrain. Now we have rules for that, which is nice. But before, we were kind of trying to come up with ideas for how that might work. So Voodoo's next question is, also, I see a lot of flack leveled at lower model count warbands for being non-competitive in match play. Would you ever consider a lower model count warband? And if so, which? You got any ideas there, Paven?
Well, I don't really play match play Warcry, so yeah, sure, yeah. I have my Iron Jaws; they're pretty low model count. Those guys are super fun. Yeah. I do, I will admit, I do try to get as many bodies as I can in those warbands, because I know it gives you a lot more flexibility having more guys to do more things, especially above ground. With Catacombs, I think that is not as it's a little more balanced away from high movement, high model count warbands, because you have the 5 turns and it's a flat grid, instead of that kind of elevation, which makes the space you're working in larger.
Yeah, and just where you can come in terms of the reinforcements. Yeah.
What are the other low model count warbands? Like, a lot of warbands can be built low model count, like Skaven have access to so many cheap fighters.
Yeah, well, even, some of the mounted units you can take now, you could really have low model count armies. And I think the one I had is I played my Kahadran Overlords. I only had 6 models in that warband, for quite a while, because they're expensive. And it was fairly competitive. It had a lot of shooting, and the models supported each other. So it did pretty well. And I haven't tried it in match play, so I don't know how competitive it would be for that. Certainly in the open space, the movement with the flyers was helpful. In a space like Catacombs, it would be interesting to see, whether the 3-inch movement for the guys on foot makes a huge difference or not. But that particular warband did pretty well. But I think you're right that you could definitely tailor a lot of warbands to be low model count, and I think it really depends on whether it's catacombs or above ground and what the mission is. Because if it's grab the 4 objectives, you're going to be hurting. but,
Yeah,
but
especially
if
if you
it's
only got three guys to do it.
yeah, but if it's like to kill this, kill the dagger, well, maybe you've got a better chance because your models are probably tougher or faster.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely think it'll depend on the scenario. And our last question is from Darth Alec, and he asks, how would you make Duradin more fun, viable in terms of the Warcry warbands? And we did get one answer on the Discord forums where somebody mentioned that with the Grand Alliance books, for Order, you could take the Cities of Sigmar Tempest Eye faction, and you could take the Rune Lord, which kind of gives dwarves, the Fire Slayers, kind of like the Wa move for the Iron Jaws. Did you have any other ideas on how to make the Duradin more fun or viable in this particular way?
I mean, I didn't know they were not fun or not viable. But that might be my own ignorance. I mean, you certainly had a lot of success, and it seems like a lot of fun, blasting people off the table with your KO.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. So yeah, in the Cities of Sigmar, they just got tons of rules recently, and I don't know if people have gotten a lot of time to play with them, but they have a lot of tools and a lot of cool stuff, with the different cities they can play around with, and a lot of different miniatures they can use and allies. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Yeah, I thought they were fun.
Yeah, no, and I think this might be alluding to more the 3-inch movement, and there are several warbands I think that struggle with that. The Iron Jaws, but they've got an ability that helps them get a little bit faster movement or two. The Nurgle Mortals have 3-inch movement in most cases. Of course, the Fire Slayers all have 3-inch movement. I don't think they have any abilities that give them extra movement, unfortunately.
Ooh, but I can see why that wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But I do know that like Vince had put together a warband, Cities of Sigmar warband with only dwarves in it, and it was very effective. There were I think there were 9 dwarves. Some of them had ranged weapons, some of them were all melee. But we played on the Catacombs board, and I think all of the warbands, with slower movement, do much better on the Catacombs board. Again, due to the reasons we said, you've got the reinforcements are a little different. They can come in from all over the board. There are rooms to kind of come in, and you get 5 turns. So I definitely think those warbands benefit more on the Catacombs board than they do on the open.
Oh, so that'll be our answer. Play Catacombs games. Really fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's it for our questions and in this particular season. So we'll definitely get our podcast up and share our pictures with you for voting. And then we'll follow up when we have some more material. We'll kick off the next season.
Yeah, whenever we feel like it.
Exactly.
So again, if you're listening to this, track down the Discord or the Twitter or the Facebook and, vote once. But we certainly won't be checking. And and we'll follow up with you guys later. We'll probably be on maybe a couple episodes of the Mortal Realms, our grandfather show, to talk about other action in the Age of Sigmar universe. And yeah, this is the real end of the season. Thank you guys so much for coming on the journey with us.
Yep. Thanks so much.
It's time to put a muzzle on this episode. If it was a good dog, support the show with a positive review on iTunes, sharing it with friends, joining us for hobby discussions at themortalrealms.com/Discord, or leave a tip at themortalrealms.com/Patreon. More content is available at themortalrealms.com and on Twitter at Dogs of Warcry.
Welcome to the Midwest side, those ruthless narrative driven podcast, you'll have a fun ride. I'll be in fall. We get your boss dice, rolling below in the front, never stolen, no, to the Dogs of Warcry.